Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight in our news.
We speak with the CPSA just after their meeting with the Financial Secretary.
Members of Parliament debate the non-profit organization bill.
Sandilands workers call for security to be beefed up at the institution.
Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Our News, and thanks for joining us. I'm Jared Higgs. Topping news tonight, police are investigating another double homicide, the second double killing in less than 48 hours. According to Superintendent Shanta Knowles, two men were sitting in a vehicle when they were shot. The police press liaison also revealing the police's figure for the number of murders committed for the year.
But for the purpose of you knowing the count, I think we are at number 86. For the year.
The latest additions to that figure came on Tuesday night when police say two men were shot in a vehicle in front of a home in Jubilee Gardens.
Shortly after 11:45 or around 11:45 yesterday, police received reports of gunshots in the Jubilee Gardens area or Fire Trail Road. Once officers responded to that location, they discovered two men in a vehicle. The vehicle was parked in the driveway of a home, and the engine was still running. Both men had trauma injuries to their bodies.
EMS personnel were unable to revive the men. Knowles was asked if one of the men who was killed lived at the home that they were discovered in front of.
We are getting information that one of them may have been visiting someone at that residence, but not yet confirmed if they live there, but may have been a visitor to the residence.
These killings come less than 2 days after 33-year-old Neil DeVoe and his 30-year-old fiancée Ashley Hilton were shot dead on the property of Sandilands Rehabilitation Centre. And while Knowles says police are working both cases, officers don't believe they're connected.
At this time, we see no evidence to connect those incidents, but we are actively working both cases and hoping that as quickly as possible we can resolve them.
Police say 86 people have been murdered in the Bahamas so far this year. On Tuesday, National Security Minister Marvin Dame said there has been a steady downward trend in murders. Knowles says police hope these four latest killings are the last they'll have to investigate for the year.
But we have scaled down on the amount of officers in those administration areas and put them on the streets. So you will see an increase in lights flashing because officers will be patrolling with their lights on. But please know that there will also be undercover vehicles and they will also be patrolling 24 hours.
Police also revealing that armed robberies are down compared to the same period in 2017.
We can tell you that so far for the year we are at a decrease of about 14% in armed robberies. Despite the fact that we are still seeing them, we are still at a decrease as compared to the very same time last year.
While pleased with that number, Superintendent Shanta Knowles says during the busy holiday season, people can become distracted and unknowingly make themselves targets for would-be criminals. The police press liaison says if a business establishment is being robbed, it's important not to panic, as criminals are often as scared as you are.
Keep your hands in sight at all times and do not make sudden moves. If you can, get a look at the robber, his description, his clothing, and keep it in mind and be prepared to speak with an officer if necessary. Do not follow a robber who has just left your premises. Instead, call the police and give the description of the vehicle or that they may be using or the direction that they may have gone. They may have traveled. Activate panic alarm only when it is safe. And if you do not have one on your premises, it is a good idea at this time to install one.
Police also revealed that there have been 59 traffic fatalities so far in 2018. That's 5 more than recorded in 2017 when there were 54 deaths in car crashes. Acting officer in charge of the police traffic department, Superintendent Marino Hines, says despite the increase, that number is lower than figures from a decade ago. He also advised motorists to exercise extreme caution during the holiday season, urging them not to drink not to drive if they've been drinking.
We recognize that persons are going to be drinking. That is a given. We prefer that they do not drink before driving, but if they absolutely have to, we would ask them to consider to drink in moderation. All right? Alcohol, once a person is inebriated, drastically impairs your reaction time. And so we want persons to drink and drink in moderation or not at all before driving.
A meeting for members of the Consultant Physician Staff Association tonight will determine whether or not those senior physicians return to the job at public healthcare facilities. This after a meeting with the Financial Secretary produced a counter-proposal, which those members are set to review. Kyle Joaquin has the story.
We're not here to play politics. We're just here to do our jobs.
Consultant Physician Staff Association Treasurer Dr. John Dillette described the association's meeting with Financial Secretary Marlon Johnson today as progressive. As the senior physicians continue to withhold their services from public health care facilities across the country, Dillette told RN News the Financial Secretary presented them with a counter-proposal. But there's just one problem.
There's no official document that has been signed as yet, and as such, our industrial action will continue until such time that there is. But we have made progress. We will present a counter-proposal to our membership, and our hope is that both sides could come to an agreement.
The physicians have highlighted concerns with working conditions at PMH, a lack of health insurance, and said they have not received raises in 10 years. CPSA President Dr. Loxie Monroe was unable to attend Wednesday afternoon's meeting as he was out of town. Now, the CPSA and the Public Hospitals Authority have repeatedly locked horns over physicians' requests. We asked Dr. Dillette what is in the counter-proposal and if their demands appeared to have been met.
We expect that we would have to make compromises. However, we would be unwilling to make any agreement unless it addressed many, if not all, of our issues. What we do think is that we could find some common ground that would work for both the government of the Bahamas and the CPSA. So hopefully that will happen.
Now, as for the CPSA's relationship with the PHA, Dr. Dillette said a representative was in the meeting as well, and despite their differences, the two bodies will have to make things work.
There's going to be a need for the government of the Bahamas, the Public Hospitals Authority, and the CPSA to work together. What I think is important from this whole process is to understand that these people will not be disrespected, we will not be considered to be undervalue of what we are, and we will continue to hold fast in terms of things that we think are important and are fair.
Now again, the CPSA Treasurer said what happens in their meeting tonight as well as tomorrow will determine how they move forward. Reporting for the Ministry of Finance for Our News, I'm Kyle Joaquin.
Thanks, Kyle. Deputy Prime Minister Peter Turnquest and State Minister for Legal Affairs Ellsworth Johnson leading off debate on several bills in the House of Assembly this morning. One of those pieces of legislation was the Non-Profit Organizations Bill 2018, which is being criticized by the Bahamas Christian Council president, who says there was a serious lack of consultation. Jasmine Brown reports.
Both the Deputy Prime Minister and the Legal Affairs Minister sought to defend the bill as they insisted it's not a witch hunt, as some may think.
This is not an intention to see what's on your balance sheet. This is not a witch hunt for any particular group.
Both Turnquest and Johnson were responding to recent criticism. The DPM insisted the bill would enhance the integrity of and mitigate the abuse of NPOs.
This is not about trying to identify, manage, expose the affairs of any organization. It is intended to ensure transparency in the fight against illicit activity. That it is not the intent of the government to interfere or to monitor, other than for defined purposes, the activities of any organization, be they religious, civic, social.
BCC President Bishop Delton Fernander told the Nassau Guardian on Tuesday that it would be a shame the government intends to pass the Non-Profit Organizations Bill 2018 without first considering the concerns of the church. Fernander said he had just received a copy of the bill nearly a week after it was tabled in Parliament and a day before it was debated. But the Legal Affairs Minister insists there was proper consultation.
I know that there has been, and I was a part of that, consultation with industry partners, including the church.
The bill requires that nonprofit organizations declare their anticipated source of contribution, copies of their articles of association, the identity of the controllers and other members of the organizations, their annual income, evidence of know your customer procedures, and evidence of board structure and function. The bill also specifies that a nonprofit organization would be removed from the register if it fails to maintain accounting records where required, among other things. Reporting for our news, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Following the shooting deaths of a man and a woman outside Sandilands Rehabilitation Center, the union representing employees at that Fox Hill Road facility is calling for enhanced security, telling our news it has been an ongoing concern. Jillian Gray reports.
Following Monday's double homicide, Sandilands Rehabilitation Center workers say they are in fear for their lives.
The morale here is low. People are afraid. People are very much afraid.
On Monday, police say 2 gunmen parked outside Sandilands Rehabilitation Center, waited for Neil DeVoe, then gunned down the 33-year-old man and his girlfriend. Staff at the Fox Hill Road facility have since received counseling. However, BPSU President Kingsley Ferguson says that did little to quell the fears of frightened workers.
This morning, they would have had a psychologist that would have come down to speak with the staff. While it's good to cause people to vent, persons are more concerned with how secure they're going to feel while they're at work. And so I would have asked the question as to where is the security expert to comfort these people and let them know what mechanisms are going to be put in place.
Ferguson said all medical institutions should have multiple layers of security, adding his members' safety concerns also extend to SRC's wards, where female employees reportedly have to wrestle with hostile patients.
Each ward should have a security officer stationed there to assist with restraining patients. The other concern that we have is patients are attacking staff violently, and the staff are being expected not to respond in order to protect themselves. We would have had persons fired from this institution because patients would have violently attacked them and they defended themselves. We don't want to see any of them being carted out of here either in an ambulance or in a coroner's vehicle.
Employees told our news that at one point there were only 10 security officers on staff. With over 500 patients passing through that facility, they said that is unacceptable.
Industrial unrest is brewing in this country, and somebody needs to step up to the plate and give us some definitive response regarding the concerns that we may have. A lot of the ministers and stuff, they play in the Jerry Roker role. They can't find them in town. And so that's a concern. We're seeking to get resolved to some things, but in order for that to happen, we need to be able to access persons so that we can express to them what the concerns are.
Reporting for our news, I'm Jillian Gray.
Still to come on our news, MPs debate bills designed to protect the Bahamas from blacklisting, plus new police vehicles hit the streets. That's coming up when our news returns.